Welcome everyone. Really cool to have all the youngsters here. We even get sweets when you guys come. So this whole session is really about changing EOH, changing where we're going, and really trying to find out what is the future that all of you want. You spend 8, I hope 10 or 12 hours a day working for us, and you need to create the company that you want to lead in the future. And this is really the start of it. We're going to have more of these things. And what I'm trying to do is really change the culture of the organization. It was very much a command and control, very siloed organization. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But we need to get to a point where we are much better and more integrated ecosystem. I call it the Lego blocks. We at EOH have got the biggest box of Lego that was ever built. Every single piece that was ever made is in there. We need to decide what to do with it. And this is really what these series are going to start with. I did it with the old farts, and now I'm doing it with the youngsters, and we're going to try and bring that together just to make sure that we get some connectivity. And really, it's just waking up the old people and getting the youngsters to drive the change. So this is me just being a little bit cheeky. You're going to talk about massive transformational purpose later. And that's really is, what do you want to do every day? When you wake up and you come to work, what are you actually trying to achieve? It's not just about making money. It's not just about getting that check at the end of the month. It's about actually making a difference, making change, being different, helping customers. And so this was my very quick one, creating digital futures. The only reason why it's up there, if anyone chooses that, you're fired. It's got to be better than that. All right. So this exponential future is, we just need to think about a mindset. It's a mindset of how we approach problems. It's not really trying to create the next Google or, the next Amazon. Yes, maybe we will. The chances of that very small. But it's how we think about problems, how we attack them. And this is the most interesting thing I find about these sessions. It really teaches you to think differently about problems. We're all grown up and at school, and the way we get educated is to think linear. We do budgets on 10% better. Today, we can't do that. The world is changing so fast. If you're just doing 10% better, you lose. You need to do different. And as the Harvard Business School says, it's about not making things differently, it's doing things differently, actually making a difference in the way you do it, because if it's not different, it's just slightly better. And that's not good enough for us. Your customers, you'll see, they move slow, and then suddenly they're moving fast. And if you haven't moved with them and helped them think through that process, you get left behind. You probably won't remember, but when I was your age, email just came out. And it was quite interesting. Maybe 1 in 10 of my mates had email. We still had those little modems you had to plug in. I think I got a very cool one. Mine was 1800 and something, not the 9600. It was very fast. And you actually had to be quite clever to set this thing up. It wasn't straightforward. It didn't just, type in a password and work. But what was interesting with email, as I said, it was like 1 out of 10 of my friends had email, 1 out of 10 of my friends had email, and then suddenly, it was literally overnight, everyone, because business adopted it as a business tool. And that's the speed at which change can come. And we've seen it with iPhones and things like that. I mean, iPhones are now, if you don't have your phone, even for me, I feel lost. When I go on holiday, I got my phone because I want to have a look at things. And this is what this way of thinking and this mindset we need to get right. I mean, these are just some of them. It's really a different way. For a lot of you, this is just second nature. For us oldies, this has really changed our lives, significantly. And we need to think about that. We think about the ecosystems that we want to create. We want to think about the platforms that we can create. And this is this Lego box that we've got. Build once, use 1,000 times. So this is the EOH to EOH. And this is our history that we have to deal with. And this last year has been massively difficult, but also has been really useful because, as they say, don't waste a crisis. We've been able to make massive change in the organization. And having come through the other side, I don't know if any of you read newspapers these days, but at least the press last week was using us as the example. We had the head of the corruption watch saying, I wish all the companies would do what EOH is doing, because then we can move forward. So we've gone from being EOH to actually being the poster child for how to deal with these issues, and largely out the other side. It's very interesting. We went to see one of the large insurers on Friday. They'd put us on their blacklist, and when I walked in to go and see them, basically they said, well, you're off our blacklist, can you come and help us, because this could have happened to us. When we read what happened, we've got the same business problems, can you come and help us? And so that's quite a big turnaround in just a short space of time. And so this is really what we need to get out to our customers, and that we should be very proud of what we achieved over the last year.
Here we are at the start of the first event of the afternoon, the second semi-final of the 100 yards for people with no sense of direction. I'll just give you the competitors. Lane 1, Skolonovsky of Poland. Lane 2, Salamatini of France. Lane 3, Grobovich of the United States. Next to him, Drabble of Trinidad. Next to him, Fernandez of Spain. And in the outside lane, Orban of Brazil.
So I don't know how many of you watch Monty Python and that, but that was really what EOH was like before we arrived. It was a bunch of different businesses all doing their own thing. There was no working together. There was no ecosystem. There was no build once and share it. Everyone reinventing the wheel. And so we had this really powerful business, but we weren't using it. And this is really what I wanted to change. So, that was a bit of the bright side. I mean, if you have a look at these things, we've done a lot. Obviously, you've seen clean up our balance sheet. There were a lot of issues there. We've got to a point where we know exactly what our financial position is and how we delever our balance sheet. The good news is it's just really a few things that we have to do. It's just a matter of time. We've agreed that with the banks. We had really good shareholder meetings last week, and we're going to work through what they want us to do. So I'm hoping in the next 6 months we'll be back to normal, and we can start being the consolidator of the RCT industry. So what is this exponential thinking, exponential mindset? So this really came from a thing Deloitte did, where they call it the zoom out, zoom in strategy. And really, because the world is changing so fast, that you really need to imagine who your customers are, who your competitors are, what the world's going to look like, maybe even as far as 5 or 10 years ahead, because that comes very quickly. It was quite interesting when we did this room, when I was actually here at ABSA, we had a 2020 vision. That was 7 years. It's finished. It's gone. And so what the theory is that you zoom out, go and see who your customers are, go in 7 years. Think about who your competitors are, and then you zoom back in today and you say, okay, does my strategy of today get me there? And I can probably promise you 9 times out of 10 it won't. If you have a look at the stats, you would have seen they say, and I know Neil always corrects me because this a stat changes, but the average lifespan of a Fortune 500 company in the 1930s was about 65 years. Today it's less than 15. And this is what's happening. You've seen the blockbusters, the Nokias, the Kodaks, disappear. And the reality is this is the norm. And so if you don't understand what's coming at you quickly and you don't go there in your strategy, you're going to lose out. And the interesting thing of exponential, it's not a new concept. Einstein came up with compound interest many years ago, and people are happy with compound interest. When you talk about exponential, they all roll their eyes. But it's a reality. And the thing about exponential that I find so interesting is that 0.1, 0.2, 0.4, 0.8, 1.6, that's exponential. But in the beginning, it looks very pedestrian. And then suddenly it goes 3.2, 6.4, and it just zooms. And the problem is that if that's your competitor, as they start moving away from you, you can't catch up, they're gone. And this is the important thing. And this is what a lot of companies are trying to have a look at is how do they take cost out? How do they give more for less? And this is what I call, if you have a look at my WhatsApp profile, I've had it for years, the 10%, 10 times at 10%. So you want to do 10 times more at 10% of the cost. That should be your aim. Because if you get that right, you win. Clearly, you're not going to do that. But the point is if I say to you, go and take your business, and I want you to come back with a plan that's 10 times better with 10% of the cost. You can't go back and do exactly what you were doing. You've got to start with a clean sheet. And this is the new way of planning and thinking. And even with your customers, don't go and see what they've got and try and make it better. You've got to see what they've got, make it different. And you can only make different by starting from scratch and rethinking the problem. And this is why I use this 10 times at 10%. It's just a figure of speech to say, start with a clean sheet. Understand where you're going in 5 years and what your competitors are going to be. Start now. Because if you build for tomorrow, by the time it's out, it's already obsolete. It's gone. Someone's already done something better than you. And so you always have to be throwing the ball forward. And this is really what this is about. We talk about the moonshots. These are the great ideas. And really what I want to try and do is come up with 3 or 4 ideas every 6 months that we think will fundamentally change our business. Things that you think would make it better, or you think will change it, or you think that will make us more exponential. You know, we had one here when I was at ABSA. They won a prize, and it was just about how to save paper on printing. A silly little idea that they came up with saved us a few million rand a year. And these things are game changers because you start putting these all together and suddenly you've got a different cost point, a different way to serve, a different way to work together. And so really I'm asking all of you to keep coming up with ideas and think about how you want to change the business and what things you don't like about we do, or what things we should be doing that we're not doing. And we'll try and see if we can get the crowd to make a decision on what are the things we want to do. And then we'll go and implement those and start changing the business bit by bit. So me, I don't know, that Ilse's impression of me, obviously flying without a parachute at the moment. Thank you, Ilse. But the point is I am really here only for a short time. You guys are going to be around a lot longer. I'm 53. I've probably got about 5 or 6 years left, and then I'm gone. So my job really is I call myself the Chief Excitement Officer, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But the point is I'm really here to make sure that we build the business that you guys want to run. The most irritating thing in my life so far is every time I take over a CEO job, it takes me 2 years to sort the company out into something that's now fit for purpose. It just seems such a waste of time. And the only way I can make this business ready for you guys, the future leaders, that's why you were chosen, that's why you're here. We have 11,000 people, there's only 70 here or whatever it is. So you need to come up with what is the business that you want to run in 5 years' time. And we'll start building that, making it fit for purpose. So whoever comes in and fills these shoes, we just carry on as if nothing happened. And we can carry on our journey. We don't go back to 0.1, 0.2. We go to 3.2, 6.4. So my commitment to you is that I'll listen. And I'll do my best to orchestrate the traffic and direct it. But that means that you have to come up with ideas. So what do I need from you? Well, our biggest cost as a services company is people. You are my biggest cost. And the best thing I can do is give you an environment that really excites you and makes you want to work, makes you want to think. And we're going to work on that, and we're going to get that right. When I was a youngster and I went to ESCOM, they were at Megawatt Park there, but they were in both buildings in those days. Today SARS is in one and then the other. And the CEO used to sit in the far buildings. He used to come in the north side, and they used to come and pick you up in a golf cart because it was so far to the other side. And I remember finishing the meeting and walking out and saying to Talani, this is a big building. How many people work here? And he looked at me and he said, Stephen, I think about 30%. And this is the problem with services businesses. if we don't get 100% out of everyone, we lose, because we only run a 10% margin. So if 10% of the people aren't working, we're not competitive anymore. So it is really important that all of you get excited about what you're doing. If you see things that aren't working or you don't like, you've got to speak up, because otherwise I can't change it. And the leadership team can't change it. And that's really what we're here to do, is to build this business that's fit for purpose and fit for purpose for the future. So this, once again, is just reiterating how I really want you to think, is every time you see a problem, don't think about the past. You've got to learn from the future. And this is this zoom out thing. It is the most important thing that you take out of today. Think about what's in the future. If you read that book, Exponential Organizations, they talk about starting to do stuff today, even though the technology is not here. Because by the time you've got it sorted out, the technology will be here. And this is really where we have to push the boundaries. Because if we don't, and you just use what you've got today, in 2 years' time, once again, someone's gone past you. And this is continually the issue we have to deal with. There's so many people wanting to start these small companies out of their garages, fit, agile, fast. We need to be better than that. We need to be faster than that. And we need to get ahead of them. So it was interesting. I was in New York for my wife's 50th, and I was thinking about what we were going to talk about. And I walked in, I saw the Lego store, and I saw this, and I thought, that's a product. It's linear. It's limiting, because each of them, you get a box, and you can only build one thing. You can try and build something else, but it's going to look very funny because you're going to be short to pieces. And then I looked on the other side of the shop. Look what I saw. Not a product. You can build whatever you want to. You can go and get as many bits as you please. Totally exponential, totally unlimited. And this is the heart of EOH. We have all these building blocks across our different businesses, all with different skills. The only way we get to this slide is by working together. And this is part of what we have to do today. You're all in different parts of the businesses. Some of you come from different countries and different parts of the country. We've got to start getting in this virtual world and working together. And this is what we're driving. The more we share ideas, the more we get together, the more we spend time thinking, the better we can do. Because we have this. We have this wall. It's there. We've just got to use it. I think this is important around the MTP. Today, people are looking for results. They're looking for solutions. They're looking for something that works for their customer. Those of you who listen to the webcast, I talk about, it's interesting today is you have to sell differently. And this is why we have an advisory and consulting bit, is because no longer as an IT company do you go and sell an IBM machine or a router or Wi-Fi or email to the CIO. You actually have to go to the COO or the head of a business or the CEO or the CFO or the head of HR or the head of risk and say to them, I can digitize your world. I can make it easier. I can make it simpler. I can make it better for the people. And once you've sold a solution to them, you then go and contract with the CIO and put all the bits and cables and software and everything together. And this is really, really important in terms of how we're going to make a difference. If you're just doing what everyone else can do, they're going to share the work out. If you go and really make an impact, that's when people use you again and again and again. And then you get really embedded in the organization because you understand their strategy, they trust you, and you can get things done. Once again, I keep belaboring this point. It's about being random. It's about thoughts. It's about thinking out the box. It's about trying those crazy things. Today we can experiment so easily with digitization. It's not expensive, but we've got to try these crazy ideas and see if they work. And often something comes out of it. So I really want to encourage you to do that. Try and be different. Make an impact. And this is just, once again, encourage each other, get together, have little breakfasts together, create little hackathons on your own. Do whatever you want to do. If you've got a problem, something that's irritating you, something that irritates you when you have to go and do something at a bank or at the post office or everything. Let's solve that problem. Let's come up with an impact. Okay, so really next steps is about today and tomorrow. You're going to work through a few things. We're going to teach you some skills around how to think agile, think differently, but actually make it methodical so you can work through it. There's a really interesting methodology that Colin will take you through. The important thing is you embed it in your everyday work. It's no good spending 2 days here and going back to work and doing exactly the same thing. As Einstein says, the definition of an idiot, doing the same thing, expecting different results. We've got to do things differently. We've got to start changing the culture. The best way to change the culture is the engine room, the youngsters. Do things differently, challenge your bosses, come up with different ideas. And then we'll talk about the purpose of the company and what do you think we should be doing as ICT in the heart of the fourth industrial revolution. What do you think we should stand for? How do we actually get that across to our clients? And in everything we do, we actually embellish that and we show people that this is who we are, this is how we're about, this is the difference we're going to make. And how can we use our assets in the organization to make a difference in the communities in which we operate. So let's go, let's enjoy it, let's have fun for the next 2 days, and let's come up with some really crazy ideas that we can actually execute on. Thanks very much and enjoy.